everyone, welcome back to another edition of the SBK Betting Podcast. It's the 1st of September and we can really feel the heat now as we enter into the latter stages of the flat season, and there's still plenty to look forward to. A huge amount of horses set to come out this weekend, and after last weekend's slightly damper squib, we've got really good racing. It's that perfect in-between point after York, some horses coming out again. We've got a Group 1 action at Haydock with the Sprint Cup over the 6 furlongs. And we've also got summer ground still, pretty fast ground all over. And I'm pleased that we've had another good week for the podcast. TC and Ross's faith in Tis Marvellous in the Beverley Bullet was repaid. I tried to be clever, but it didn't work out, and it was just Tis Marvellous. Too good, 7-2 in the end. That looked like decent value. And TC's other selection, King of Stars, was a really decent third at 8-1. But also, hats off to TC, literally. If you can't see him, he went to a festival once and he's now turned into a gangster. But his place play in Emaraaty at 6-1, didn't just place, it won in good style. And you definitely celebrated, didn't you, Tom?
Yeah, well, I went to the festival on Sunday. I forgot to put sun cream on. It was 22 degrees and cloudy, but somehow my skin decided, you know what, now let's just go red raw and burn and ruin the whole week. So, yeah, the forehead is not in a good state, Jess. I'm not now a gangster, although I am bringing the baseball cap back into fashion. But last week was really good. Hopefully this week will continue. Plenty more winners on the way.
Yeah, we were hoping for more of a gangster story to match the gangster look. And for those that can't see and are listening to this podcast, before we started, TC was wearing quite a big black hoodie to match his black baseball cap. And he's looking pretty slick. As for Ross Millar, always the same, always looking slick. And looking forward to another weekend, I'd imagine, Ross. Some really good selection of races that we've got to look forward to, and also proper field sizes.
Yeah, proper field sizes and everything from sprints to staying contests. So keeps me very happy, and I thought there was plenty to look at and plenty of work to be done to find some selections.
Yeah, before we get going, we do have the St. Ledger, the final classic, coming up next week. And SBK are running a competition where you can win 2 county enclosure tickets to the St. Ledger at Doncaster on Saturday, 10th of September. All you have to do to enter is head to the SBK Twitter channel, follow and retweet the pinned tweet on SBK's Twitter. So that's something to look forward to and to get behind with the St. Ledger coming up. So that is that. Let's get into this weekend and the feature race, which is the Sprint Cup, the 6 furlongs, over the 6 furlongs, of course, and it is a Group 1 race. And plenty of races this year have been Group 1 in name, but they haven't been in terms of quality and quantity. But we've got a proper field size of runners, and I think it's for the first time in a long time we've had 17, the max field, and that's a really good respect and result for this race, which always turns out some good performances. Last year was a bit of an upset with Emaraaty Ana, but we've got some proper Group 1 quality horses as well. Minzaal is in this. He chased home Highfield Princess at Deauville last time in the Prix Maurice de Gheest, a race which has got a couple of others reopposing as well. Rohan, Naval Crown, who's second favourite, 5-1. Last year's winner, Emaraaty Ana, is around 7-1. Rohan's in this. Art Power. Kinross is really interesting back down in trip as well. So TC, I'll start with you. As I said, proper group of sprinters, 17 in here. I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's a great race, and I think Haydock have been rewarded for putting on some good races in the past, but this is a good one, and I'd say it's tough to work out.
Yeah, not only have we just got a maximum field, but we've also got a great punting heat. We've got 4-1 the favourite at the moment, likely to be around 7-2, 4-1, 9-2 maybe on the off as well. So there are multiple different ways you can go in this race. It should be great for the neutral, let alone the punter. And there are plenty of horses that you could side with that have solid claims. Emaraaty Ana being one, a horse that obviously I tipped in the Nunthorpe a couple of weeks ago. He ran a great race, finished third. It was something like his best. And I was super tempted to chuck him back in as my selection for this race as well. He won the race last year. The race kind of panned out nicely though, and to win back-to-back Sprint Cups, you need to be exceptional. I'm not sure Emaraaty Ana is that, but he's definitely got a great chance. He would have been the last off my shortlist, I'm going to side with the closer though, because I think this race is going to develop into just a rapid sprint from the outset. There's going to be at least a minor pace collapse, hopefully a major pace collapse. And that's going to suit another horse that I'm developing a soft spot for, which is Rohan. Now, I tipped Rohan last time in the City of York Stakes, obviously at York. He finished 7th of 9, but there are plenty of reasons why that race just didn't pan out. Firstly, he was held up last. Everything that was held up and came from off the pace just couldn't get anywhere near the front runners or the protagonists at York. It's the same old story year in, year out, but I was hoping that maybe this one time they'd go hard in the City of York, and they just didn't. He never made any inroads. His only other anomaly this year from a real good CV of performances also came at York. So maybe just that track doesn't suit him either. And it came over 7 furlongs where he wasn't able to show his high cruising speed and then rely on a pace collapse up front. He now drops back in trip. He goes to Haydock, which I think will suit him a lot better than York. I just think he's criminally underrated, this Rohan. He has a wicked turn of foot, a high cruising speed. Yes, he does need the leaders to come back to him, but I think that's eminently possible in a race that has Art Power and several other front runners in it. So with Holly Doyle booked, and there's likely to be some rain as well on Saturday morning, which will definitely help him, given he's won on soft and heavy ground. He won't get that testing, but there'll be a little bit of dig underfoot. Rohan has to be the play for me.
Okay, interesting. He's obviously also got course and distance form at Haydock, which is a help. Quick word TC on the favourite though, Minzaal, who was just ahead of him in the Prix Maurice de Gheest. He's been the real talking horse, and he's got a very consistent enough CV. What is it? Clearly, obviously, trying to get some value is a good punting heat that would make you feel like that this isn't his Group 1.
I mean, it could be, but the fact that he is likely to go off favourite or is currently favourite puts me off slightly. Now, he's got plenty of upside. He's one of the most unexposed horses in the race. Owen Burrows has done really well with his limited stock this season. He was super impressive in the Hackwood 2 starts back, and last time out, as you say, in the Maurice de Gheest, he ran a really nice second. Now, on that form, he's bang there with Rohan, my selection, so there's no way I could possibly write him off. But you're just going to take a shorter price on him. I don't know. I just prefer the shout of Rohan. I think the early pace in this race will also see Minzaal in a different light. Now, yes, he has got a really high cruising speed, much like Rohan, and therefore will be suited by the dynamics. But as I say, he's just a little bit too short for my liking.
Okay, so case be made for Rohan and why perhaps just at the prices, not for this favourite Minzaal, where, Group 1 form I think is really apparent and really, really needed. You really see the best sprinters around here, and whether Rohan is Group 1 level. Obviously, as a 3-year-old, he's unlucky to have had the opportunity to run in the Commonwealth Cup, being a gelding, and then he went and won the Woking on the same day. So he clearly is highly regarded and has done a lot of good work for the Dave Evans team. Ross, how did you find this working this out? Because I just thought Group 1 form is what I really look for. Horses that have been really flying the flag in the highest company, because this is a good renewal.
Absolutely. I think it's a difficult problem to solve. I think it's a great betting heat. It's not a race I'm going to go wading into. That's for certain. My forecast was different to TC's, and I'd be quite interested if his was right, because at the start of the week, the horse that really interested me was Brad the Brief. He's got plenty to find, but he is stepping forward with every run. He's looked a revelation for Hugo Palmer this year. And I do like sprinters when they get on a bit of a roll. We had it last year with Rohan, who TC's tipped, Dragon Symbol last year, Highfield Princess this year. Once they get going, they can just stay in that groove. I thought he was interesting, but I came down to the conclusion that he is absolutely dependent on a bit of give underfoot. He was a non-runner last time at York with good to firm ground, given as the reason. That was over 7 furlongs. If it's good to firm, I think he might not even run. I don't think it's going to suit him. So I came down on Naval Crown. I thought he looked solid. I don't think he appreciated the ground at Deauville last time. He didn't look comfortable from some way out. And I know he has form on soft ground, but he's been racing on a quicker surface. And sometimes once they get on a quicker surface, then shifting back to a softer surface just doesn't suit them. I thought a reproduction of either of his 2 good runs this year, when winning the Platy Jubes at Ascot, or when runner-up in the July Stakes. I thought if he can reproduce that back on good to firm ground, I think he's got every chance. And I slightly differ to TC in that I'm not convinced this is going to be a breakneck gallop. Minzaal, Emaraaty Ana, Kinross, Rohan, Harry 3, Brad the Brief, Cardem, they're all going to want to come off the pace. It just needs Go Bears Go, Naval Crown, and Winter Art to possibly go forward. I just thought William Buick might be able to just ride a bit of a tactical race from the front and run it to suit him and his fractions. And I think he'll see the trip out well and could be hard to peg back.
Yeah, I think he's quite uncomplicated, isn't he, Naval Crown? I don't think he was seen. I agree with you. He wasn't really seen to best effect at Deauville, where a few horses just got caught a little bit wide and just didn't really get their cover. And I feel like Naval Crown is a lot better than that. And as we've seen over the course of this season, an interesting point on the pace, perhaps coming from Go Bears Go. Your thoughts, Ross, on Sean Levy replacing Ross Orion? Obviously, we've heard the announcement today that they have confirmed the split. Sean Levy, tactically astute man. He does well taking horses from the front as well. And Dave Rotnan has been very confident about Go Bears Go at what is at the moment double figure prices.
Yeah, I mean, I just take the view that last year's juveniles were not all that great as a bunch. Perfect Power looked much the best of them last year and coming into this year, and he's been well beaten against this older age group since. I think he's a lovely little horse and a real tough trier. I don't think he's good enough, as opposed to Sean Levy. With Sean Levy taking on the ride, I like Sean Levy. I think he's very good. This is a pretty easy horse to ride, isn't it? Go as quick as you can for as long as you can. Perhaps try and grab a breather somewhere. But yeah, it's not a negative, other than the fact I think Ross Orion's been perhaps hard done by, or something's gone on there, because he was definitely one of the rising stars of the weighing room, and you couldn't really say anyone's going to be an improvement on him. But Sean Levy's certainly a solid option.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's interesting points there. I'm with Ross. I think when I looked through this, I thought I could definitely forgive Naval Crown for that run in Deauville. It was also on good to soft ground, which I don't think is necessarily his optimum. As I said, just not seen to best effect where he was positioned. His run at the Platinum Jubilee, all to be said for. Brilliant run. And there was no fluke about it as well. He's repartnered with William Buick, who's obviously won on him before, with James Stewart out with injury. And I think if you can still get 5-1, which seems to be thereabouts, that's a decent price for an already confirmed Group 1 winner. So that's the case for Naval Crown from both Ross and I for the Haydock Sprint Cup, 3:30 on Saturday. So yeah, a really decent renewal. I think we've got a lot to look forward to there. But as I said, I think this Saturday is one of those that can go a little bit underestimated, bit under the radar. We've got quality action at Ascot. We've got good stuff from Kempton as well. You can always find a little bit of jump racing as well if you're really keen. But the three big meetings are Haydock, Ascot and Kempton. And it's interesting to see the likes of Solcombe, the Melrose winner. He's back in action in the Old Borough Cup. And we've got the September Stakes at Kempton as well. So we've got a nap selection from all the team as always. Because yours landed, well, the place bet landed basically nearly as best as a nap would have done. TC, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, so my bet of the week is 3 Yorkshiremen and the 251 at Thirsk. Now, I didn't think I'd be going to Thirsk for the nap. There is one in the nursery at Kempton as well that I'm interested in, but make sure you check out the SBK Betting Zone tipping column for that. But 3 Yorkshiremen has to be the selection. He was my biggest eye catcher coming out of York's Ebor Festival. He ran in the Convivial Maiden, was ridden by Jamie Spencer on just his second start for trainer Richard Fahey. First time up, he finished third behind a horse that's won since called Frankness. That piece of form that's pretty strong. Though the Convivial Maiden's a really hot heat, it generally produces a Group 1 winner. And maybe this year's winner will strike at the top level in due time. But 3 Yorkshiremen didn't get anywhere close to winning the Convivial. He finished 10th. Nevertheless, he was a massive eye catcher. He was held up last, green in the early stages. And as I've already touched upon in this podcast, closers at York just didn't make any inroads. He did. He was one anomaly. Now, he was 17th of 17 in the early stages. Jamie Spencer was travelling really nicely on him, went to go right, and the traffic just loomed in front of him and shut the door. Then Jamie had to pull back, go left, and it happened exactly the same again. Jamie then thought, well, this race is gone, so I'm going to treat this as just a second run, just teach him a few things, hands and heels to the line. But in the last 100 yards, he passed 5 horses. If there was another 100 yards on the end of the race, he would have passed another 3 or 4. So he ran a lot better than suggests on paper. He now enters this race at Thirsk. There are a couple of interesting newcomers, one in there from a top trainer as well. But I really do think 3 Yorkshiremen is a good thing in the 251 at Thirsk.
Okay, yeah, you had flagged that was one of your eye catchers from the festival. So hopefully everyone has already noted that in their trackers anyway. But 3 Yorkshiremen in 2:51 at Thirst for TC. Ross, looking for a nap, can be anywhere on Saturday. Where is it?
So I've gone to Ascot at the 3:10. George Bowie trained in the park. He's only £4 higher than when a convincing winner of the Buckingham Palace Stakes at Ascot, Royal Ascot. Safi Osborne's £3 claim negates all bar £1 of that. An extra pound in his back on that day would not have stopped him. He was perhaps a touch disappointing on form at Goodwood last time in the Stewards Cup, but I could not think of a trip and track less suited to this horse than Stewards Cup. I was amazed he went off at the price. I'm not much of a layer, but I have to admit I did have a bit that day. I just couldn't see it suiting him at all, and he did duly get outpaced at a crucial part of the race. But to his credit, he stuck on really well. Finished, I think, about 8th place. Stepped back up to 7 furlongs on a track that he clearly likes. I think he's not finished progressing yet for George Bowie, and I think he'll take all the beating in this.
Yeah, I have to echo Ross's sentiments. We're really very similar playing fields this weekend for Ross and I when I saw him part back at Ascot, I couldn't agree with you more. Safi Osborne, big opportunity for her. She had a nasty fall last week at Newmarket, but she was back on her feet pretty quickly. And she's also ridden Ascot really well in the past too. So good opportunity for her for the George Bowie team, SBK ambassador, who's absolutely flying, 71% strike rate at the moment, and just everything he touches, which has been the same all season, is turning to more than gold. And I think that they were, as you said, Ross, disappointed with that run at Goodwood, but it likely that he was possibly on the wrong side of the track as well and wasn't beaten too far. But back at his happy hunting ground, I'm going to back you there as well. So we'll head over to the place plays as well, because as always, SBK has place only odds on all races. So one that might run well at a bit of a price for UTC.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that 3:10 at Ascot that you both fancy in the parking, and a horse called Tactical. Now, this race is full of Ascot handicap regulars, in the park being One, Fresh, Star of Orion, River Nymph, Ropey Guest. The list keeps going on. But we know plenty about these horses. One horse that we maybe don't know the most about is Tactical. We haven't seen him at his best so far this year. But bearing in mind, back in 2020, he did win the Windsor Castle over 5 furlongs at Ascot. So he clearly handles the track. He's run at Ascot the last 3 times as well. Only 2 of those came on the straight track. One was on the round track, which doesn't suit him. If you go 3 back, to the race that Inver Park actually won, Buckingham Palace at Royal Ascot, Tactical finished 6th that day, but he was drawn high in gate 22. You wanted to be drawn low, you wanted to be racing towards the far side, and he was in the middle of the track. We've seen multiple horses win subsequently from Royal Ascot that had that horrific high draw. The likes of Sinjari jumps to my mind, but there are others too. Tactical finished off his race really nice down the middle of the track, as I mentioned, finished 6th and could be marked up. I think he ran as well as Inver Park, if not slightly better, in that race. Now, subsequently, he hasn't boosted the form, but last time out, I think they were suggesting that maybe he made a sound. Tongue tie goes on now. Ryan Moore takes the ride. I think he's got a good chance of hitting the frame at a double figure price.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, Tactical's one of those slight cliff horses for a lot of people. He's got all the ability. He's had the wind surgery, and now they've got the tongue tie on. So clearly, that's not all great for him in terms of breathing. But let's hope that Tactical can get in there, replace claim for TC. Ryan Moore booked, and fascinated to see Ryan Moore on board 2 Godolphin horses for Charlie Appleby this weekend at Ascot. Can't imagine he's had many rides for them. So interesting to see how he gets on. So that's Tactical in the 3:10 at Ascot for TC, and a place play for you, Ross, please.
So I've gone back to Haydock at the 2:55. I think Silcombe's going to be very hard to beat off a significantly higher mark, but I don't think it'll stop him. But the horse I do like against him is Golden Flame, who's a bit in and out, but he ran a much better race last time in the Shergar Cup meeting over a trip of 2 miles. It probably doesn't quite stay. I thought there wasn't an awful lot of pace on in this race, and he could get perhaps an easy time up front under Andrea Anzini. He'll stick at it well, and he might just have a little bit left in reserve to repel a few, although I do expect Silcombe to pick him up inside the final furlong. He goes well at this track. He's a win and 2 seconds from 3 runs at the track. I think he can hit the frame at a decent price.
Silcombe still looks well in there with that weight of 8-9, despite going up £16 officially in the handicapper, I think it is. Oh no, my maths has failed me. £14 by the handicapper,
14.
but yeah, he's a stayer going places, and yeah, he looks very hard to beat. I agree with that. Right, so from my perspective, place claim, I'm going to put my faith back into Go Bears Go, who I loved winning last time over in the Curragh. I think that these cheap pieces have been a real benefit to him. I think that the double figure price at 12 to 1 is worth using from a place perspective. With Sean Levy on board, we discussed that just briefly when we were going through the race, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he kept up that momentum out in front. So that's Go Bears Go in the Haydock Sprint Cup for me. Stat attack time. TC, how did you get on last week with your stat attack, and what have you got this week?
I can't even remember who the stat attack was last week, Jess. I mean, this sunburn has done something to my brain. But yeah, I mean, this week I'm sticking to Thirsk, and I really will tell you whether this is actually profitable, because one of the races that this stat attack actually applies to is the race where my nap runs, and it's not the same horse. They don't cross contaminate. So if my nap does lose, hopefully the stat attack wins. The stat attack this week is Carl Burke is 4 from 10, 40%, £1 level stakes profit of plus £14.13p with his 2-year-olds at Thirsk so far this year. Now, he runs 3 juveniles across 2 divisions of the 7 furlong novice. 2 of them take on my nap, 3 Yorkshiremen, but there's also one in the first division, a horse called Royal Rhyme. She's a daughter of Lope de Vega out of a mare who has produced 3 100 plus rated progeny. So no, I think Royal Rhyme is probably the best of the Carl Burke horses. Hopefully my nap gets him done in Division 2, but make sure you look out for her in the 2:16 at Thirsk.
Okay, Carl Burke, yeah, he's a good man to be following around, and Thirsk is where you should be finding him for TC Stat Attack on Saturday. That's it. We've gone through, had a good look through that Haydock Sprint Cup. Myself and Ross seem like we're on a level playing field this weekend in terms of our selections, and TC hoping to build on from last week's good shouts as well. A reminder that new SBK customers can get £30 in free bets by depositing £10. T's and C's always apply. TC made a note on his content and additional columns that you can find on the SBK channels, whether it's YouTube or online, and we've also got extensive SBK ambassador content that you can find as well. Don't forget the St. Ledger competition. They have to enter on SBK's Twitter channel, and just a follow and RT of the pinned tweet. But hopefully we've found some more winners for you this week. Best of luck, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.